Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let Ja Morant be a lesson to you. All right. I want to first and foremost say that I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed because of what he's doing to his career. When you get to a top 1% of where you need to be to possibly fumble the bag, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And I don't blame anyone except Ja Morant. That's the only person I blame. There are some excuses going around. Even in the first go around, we're talking about two times. The first go around, a lot of excuses. And you may not catch them, Randy, Ben, as excuses. But me, the NBA whisperer, I got specific ears. All I kept hearing was, he's 24. Nah, he's a baby.
Mm-hmm.
I kept hearing, oh well, Charles Barkley threw somebody through a glass plate window. Other people have done things. I heard he's allowed to carry a gun. What's the big deal? It's Memphis, Tennessee. Guys, he signed he signed a contract with Powerade, Nike, the NBA. He is a corporation, a brand. Please, Ben, Randy, if I'm saying anything off, correct me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, we have to understand that he's going to be made an example of. He's going to be made an example of. Shout out to Adam Silver. I know Adam, first time you're around, what, 8 games light.
Yeah.
8 games light. He's like, job. We want to make you the face. We want to make you the face, but you gotta clean it up. Clean it up just a little bit, all right? Gave him a pass. I thought. I was talking to Randy, man. I said, get him out of here to the playoffs. Get him out of here because he would have missed a couple of games and then he'd have to come back for the playoffs. I said, get him out of here to the playoffs. You gotta do something. Nothing was done. Now, this man, for me, has to be going for a whole year.
A whole year.
Whole year.
Wow. All next year, huh?
All next year. Maybe they give him 30 games. You know why I say a whole year? We can move forward from here. If you have, if you guys want to say something on the topic, please do. A whole year. He did it how many months ago? And was told he shouldn't do it and did it again.
Like 2 months ago, I think.
2 months ago.
Yeah.
So God bless. He needs to be made an example of. Unfortunately, guys and girls, take this as a lesson. Focus on what you need to focus on. Don't focus on the nonsense. Please. Jesus.
Benjamin, what do you think?
I mean, I was telling Denny this a little bit before we started, and I got a text Saturday morning from my friend. It's like 6 a.m. and 6 a.m. West Coast time. And it was, first of all, I was like, did someone get hurt? Like, why am I getting a text this early? I just remembered he had a baby. So I was like, okay, he's been awake for 9 hours already. And he just says, OMG, what's wrong with Ja? And initially I had the thought of, like kind of jokingly, half in my haze of waking up, like, oh, what is another gun thing? Pulled it up. Sure enough, just another gun thing. And it's, he should have done this after the first time, but you got to reshuffle the deck with who your friends are. I'm sorry, because ultimately, Denny's right in that this is Ja's fault, but he's going to take the fall for this, and rightfully so. There's got to be accountability. Ultimately, it was you flashing the gun 2 times now, but also, I don't know how much your friends care, right? Like obviously they care, like they're your friends, but they're not about to be the ones losing out on millions upon millions of dollars, right? Like obviously he's gotten the bag in a couple different ways so far, but again, you want to talk about a lot of these athletes now. They talk about they want they're looking for generational money, right? They're trying to take care of like their families. Period. End of sentence. Right? Like their kids, right? Forever, and that's what Ja potentially is still set up to do, right? But now it's been messed up exponentially. You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate because like Denny said there at the beginning, he was being kind of shaped and groomed to be one of the faces of the league. And like I don't know how you could be that now. Maybe there's still some way to be that, but I mean, once there's a reputation around you, and this isn't just for certain players. Like Draymond Green has a reputation, right? He has a reputation for being an asshole on the court, right? But off the court, dude's a freaking like sweetheart, right? He just takes
Yeah.
care of business, and he does what he's got to do to improve his family's life, his life, dude. I mean, it's really unfortunate, and especially when you look at the first time when, again, Ja comes back right off of that first instance, and he has that now legendary softball interview on ESPN. Right? He's like, "Oh, I went to counseling. I did this. I did that. I had a meeting with Adam
Yeah.
Silver." And I love Jalen Rose, man. You will not catch me throwing shade at anyone, especially Jalen
That was
Rose.
a favor.
But it was
It was a favor.
again a big favor, media partner, right? And again, 8 days in a counseling session, which was kind of a vague statement of events of what actually he went to counseling for. And like, I get that there's pressure, but this is what you sign up for when you become an NBA athlete or an athlete, period, a professional athlete who's getting the bag. And now all that seems to be for nothing. Like that whole comeback tour. And look, on the Grizzlies front, we should be talking about, what do they do with Dylan Brooks? Like basketball stuff. And Dylan Brooks is probably gone. Under no circumstances he come. That's what we should be talking about with the Grizzlies. Not this again. I hate talking about this honestly because it's like this removes so much from we all love hoop. We love it. And this will be what people talk about who are like these casual hoop fans, you know what I mean? It's just like that's their entry point to have a conversation with people like the three of us who love hoop. We're like, "Oh yeah, I'm watching the conference finals, Lakers, Nuggets, Heat, Celtics." And they're like, "Well, did you see Ja Morant?" And then you got to have this conversation. And if that's like that for us, can you imagine what it's like to be in the league right now? Too like
embarrassing. Embarrassing.
Hey Benjamin, Denny knows me really well. When we do these podcasts, I just want to talk about basketball. I hate talking about the outside stuff because it's just like that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about Ja Morant scoring 40, going to second round, third round, finals, win a championship, MVP, whatever. That's the job I want to talk about. When he said, "Yo, we got to bring it up," I'm like, "Damn, son, really? We got to bring this shit up?" But I get it. It just every outlet is talking about it, and it's like we're fans before we are media people or podcast people. We're fans, and we all love Ja. And I think is he got the 8-game suspension the first time around. Now I'm like, is Adam Silver going to feel like a pressure from like teams and owners or social media or fans to be like, all right, now you gave him 8 games, and it's like, all right, apparently that didn't work out. Now then he says he would do the whole season, maybe 25, 30 games. That's going to lead you right into maybe end of December, maybe early January. You ain't playing until 2024. Let's see what happens. But it just a real surreal thing to happen, and you want to make sure it was like real, legit. Like, is it really happening? Was that old? Is that new? And it was brand new,
right.
And it wasn't on his IG Live. And it's like, why is everything on IG Live? Why is everything got to be so promoted on like right now? It just
Sickness.
And like you said, you want to talk about Memphis as a team with Dylan Brooks stuff, the coaching stuff. What they got to do better for next year to be a conference final legit contender? And this is, again, young kid. I'm not defending him. Young kid, just got to get better people around him, surrounding him, and support him. Not being like his friends, but you got to be like, yo, you're making X amount of money. You are a franchise player of an NBA team getting multiple deals and Powerade, Nike, whatever it is. They're looking at you. Kids are looking at you to be a role model. A lot of kids, you can ask 20 kids right now, who your favorite player? It could be Steph, LeBron, and Ja Morant. Ja Morant is in that conversation of like, this could be the guy that can lead this league for the next 10, 15 years, but not this Ja Morant. And I think he still has time to change that. The thing is, you got to change that now.
And that's the thing with being like 24, and that's obviously at some point it's a legitimate argument, right? Because we all did dumb stuff when we were 24. Once you make it to the NBA and you're making this kind of money, 24 isn't 24 anymore. You know what I mean? Like you have to. That's just, if you want to be in the spotlight, you want to be making this kind of money. You just got to make better decisions. I don't know how else to. I think the first time around, everyone danced around it a little bit, right? They're like, well, does he need help? Does he need and you want to be sensitive to that? Absolutely, you want to make sure that there's not other stuff going on. But again, an outlier, right? I think you can kind of brush that off, look the other way, especially in this type of world. Twice, a pattern is starting to develop, right? Multiple times where it's questionable stuff. And it's not even just these two instances, right? You want to look back, like I believe he's still in a lawsuit with that teenager who allegedly got into a fight with and then pulled a gun on him there, right? The Indiana Pacers situation where some of their members of their team saw a laser or whatever they deemed to be potentially harmful, and that surrounds Ja, and it's unfortunate that it's kind of gotten to this place where we're just wondering, what is this guy's long-term future? Because again, you want to rewind back a year and change, this dude was probably the most popular guy in the league. Like his highlights were dominating socials, were dominating ESPN for anyone who still watches ESPN for highlights. But just this dude was doing some incredible things on the court, and that's all we were talking about with Ja. And now this year it's been a 180. It's just been all the off court stuff where last year I think the worst thing people talked about Ja was, is he a defensive liability for the Grizzlies, right? Like when he misses time, the Grizzlies are this much better defensively, which ended up being true. But you're like, all right, an elite player, you can overlook that stuff. They'll probably be fine. The Grizzlies will be good for years to come. That conversation is completely different now, whether we want to accept that or not, because there's just some off the court dumb shit, right? For lack of a better term.
Denny, before we switch,
please. I'm embarrassed. I'm just want to hide my head, and people, young men that look like Ja get a harder time because of these things. Period. That's all. Period. 1, 2, 3. Nothing to cry over. He'll learn. It's going to take some time, and he'll move on. But we got to stop making excuses for, especially in the black community God bless you.
Especially
the black community. You're welcome. Especially the black community when it comes to us, whether it's football players, basketball players, we have a responsibility.
Yeah.
And there's accountability for consequences, and we need to call them out. Jalen, you my man, 50 grand. Sometimes, these lookouts, they're not worth it. Because now, are you going to do another one for him? Probably not.
Oh, he's not putting himself out there.
You feel me? Like you reach out to level the playing field. You know what it is to be a young man in the young college player making mistakes, and the media is hard on young black men. So you're like, well, listen, let's level the playing field. Come here. Let me help you get back on. You fell off your bike. Let me help you get back on. Give you a little push. But now it's all on you, Ja. You gonna have to climb out this hole by yourself. No hookups, no more excuses. It's on you now.
So I would say, I think 25 games is what he'll get. I think
minimum.
That's a minimum, nothing less. And
minimum.
I'm not saying a whole season either, but I think 25 is like, all right. You go from 8 to 25. That's without pay. That's a significant jump.
Before we hopped on, I was trying to think I was trying to compare it to the Arena situation, right? The Gilbert Arena situation where he got suspended for a year, right? And I had to kind of remember exactly what happened with that whole incident. And it's like, he pulled guns out like in the locker room, like, and no video of this, by the way. obviously. It's just a different time. But obviously pulling guns out on your teammates because of some betting, some money that's owed whichever way, obviously a lot more life
Yeah.
threatening. This is just a bad look, bad imaging, and obviously, when you're dealing with firearms and with guns, it's a major safety issue, right? Like, I'm not going to pretend to know that much about what Ja does with the stuff that he owns, but stuff goes wrong. That's just a horrible look too. But I just don't see it being a full year. Because of it being on social media. I think this is just, it's obviously a stupid situation to put yourself in. I think there's going to be debates on like how dangerous is it, blah blah blah, and it's going to be all stupid. It really is. At the end of it, it's going to be like, oh, he's suspended for whatever, let's just 30, 40 games because of they're going to try to find some way to word it where it's just bad image for the league.
Conduct,
Right? The other
detrimental.
owners are going to conduct detrimental to the league. The other owners are going to get involved because it's taking money out of their pockets, right? So I don't think it's going to be a full year, but if Woj's report holds any water, and it usually does, it's probably going to be pretty substantial.
You mentioned before we go on to the next the final four. Before we go to the final four, guys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, it's not the fact that I think I told this to Randy. It's not the fact that he had it, the gun. That's not the fact. It's the fact that he put it online. The fact that he was caught with it online.
Mm-hmm.
You want to own a gun, you want to do whatever you want, that's cool. You're the state, maybe that's possible, whatever, it's legal, fine, cool. It's the concept of the visual. It would be like you mentioned the Gilbert Arenas thing. Right. When people brought it up, I was like, that would be like the equivalent of Gilbert Arenas being at a club with a bunch of guns and having people take pictures of him. Or Allen Iverson. Just strange. You'd be like, wait, why are you having pictures of yourself with a gun being at a club? Why are you having pictures? That's the point, the concept of the live. Yeah. That's the concept. That's the only difference. For real.
Yeah.
Final four.
Yeah. Well, then he told me to switch, and I'm going to switch. So, yeah, watching Final Four, Miami, Boston, LA, and Denver. But I know, Benjamin Cruz, you are the Warriors fan. I know last year we had you on during the finals, and you were like, Kumbaya, Warriors, Steph Curry, fourth. Yeah, yeah. And now
I was coming on this show with like glasses of champagne after every game.
Wine
it was a wild time.
Game 10. We beat Boston in 6. We world champions again. And you fast forward a year later, and now you're out the second round. And listen, I've seen it. I've seen dynasties happen where they on top of the world, and then like they slow decline. I saw LA win 3 in a row. They lost that fourth year to San Antonio. I've seen Miami, LeBron lose. I've seen everybody lose. It happens. A lot of people picked the Warriors to beat the Lakers. That guy right there picked the Warriors over LA. I know you probably picked Warriors over LA. Are you surprised that it's the conference finals and the Warriors are not there and the Lakers are?
It's surprising just because you're used to it. Right, when this core is together and they're healthy, you're just kind of used to them being the finals, much less the conference finals, right? So I think that's where a lot of this shock. I use shock very loosely because this team's also been very flawed all year. They've had bad vibes around them all year, right? This is what happens when your arguably second, third best player punches your fourth, fifth best player in the face, and the video gets leaked, right? And I mean, vibes are. I was on the Light Years podcast a couple months ago now when the Warriors were like sub 500. Obviously, the road woes kind of stuck throughout the whole year, but this was around the time when people were trying to figure out what is wrong with the Warriors on the road.
Yeah.
Right. And I tried to just kind of look at this in a very like human aspect where look on the road you got to travel with your coworkers, right? With some of them are your friends. And last year the vibes were immaculate. You know what I mean? Like they got off to a great start. No one really picked them to win.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was, a little bit of a crowd who was assumed that they would kind of figure things out. But this year, when you start off with that type of negative attention around you, oh man, it's how do you recover from that, right? And like, I get it from Jordan Poole's standpoint, right? Like you're on the road with this guy, their lockers are right next to each other at Chase, so he's got to see him, and you're on the road, you're 5 nights, 7-day travel, whatever, and like you got to look to someone to be a friend, and you're like, should I go to the guy who punched me in the face like 3 months ago? And you look around, like Andrew Wiggins wasn't around like toward the tail end, who's like that's one of JP's closest friends on the team. Gary Payton wasn't back on the team until the trade deadline. So, I'm not surprised that they got eliminated because they were very, very flawed, right? The only way that they were going to touch the conference finals was if Poole rediscovered a fraction of what he was last year, which he was a very effective, efficient offensive player last year, right? He was a big difference for them. And they needed as well Clay to not be a shell of himself, right? Clay Thompson in the last 3 games, I can't remember a stretch where he's been that bad. And maybe the 15 finals where, he was struggling mightily toward the back end of the series, right? And he was kind of one of those guys who joins a group project and they still get an A, but where he didn't do anything. This was dreadful, and the last 3. And Steph tried his best, but he had also had no legs toward the end of that series too, right? His 3 wasn't falling. He was still getting to the cup. He was still doing his thing to try to get to the hole and create from there. Ultimately, that offensive load is just too much, and the Lakers were really, really good defensively.
So.
Right? They
So
turned
before Denny goes, do you feel, because if true fans know, the Warriors got to where they are because they built everything in house. They drafted Steph, drafted Clay, Draymond, Kuminga, all them guys. It just and got the core together from the Mark Jackson days to the Steve Kerr days, and they really built everything in house. Outside from Kevin Durant coming in from the outside, they didn't really do much as far as like, I need this person to come here, this big name, and then come together. So now, do you feel like this rendition of the Warriors has peaked where now it's like, all right, in order for us to get back to where we were this year or to be a contender again, I need to get somebody from the outside to come in because we don't know if Draymond's going to come back. We don't know yet. We don't know what's up with Clay. So Bob Myers, GM, don't know. That's a big question mark.
That might be the biggest one.
The big question
honestly.
mark. Where
that's the
that
first
domino falls.
Yeah.
That could make a Clay say, you know what? If he's out, I'm out. If Draymond can say, if he's out, I'm out. So we don't know yet. But do you feel like this rendition has peaked where now the Warriors to stay, I won't say relevant like that, but like to be competitive, they got to get the outside free agents and trades and stuff like that?
I mean, I definitely think they're on the tail end of it, right? To say this is even this past year was their peak, I think would be disingenuous, right? I think Steph's as good as he's ever been.
Yeah.
And, there's still potential there for him to be, an MVP candidate every single year. Draymond is still one of, if not the best defender in the NBA. He has, whether the consistency is there, I think that's the one thing, right? There are games where he takes off, and throughout the season, rightfully so. It's a very, very long season. I think Clay, man, I mean, Clay's where I think he could still be good. I really do. Can he be? It's wild too, right? Because this dude led the league in threes this year, right? And he it's still clearly there. It's just I think the the efficiency
It's
has
not
kind of gone
consistent
away.
like it was.
And no, and for relying on him to be the number 2 every night, I think that ship has sailed, right? But I think this is where that Jordan Poole bridge was supposed to be, and Steph even said as much after they won Game 5 in this last series against the Lakers, and someone asked him, like, what's the bridge, right? What's the bridge between the current, the core of the Warriors and this young group? And he pointed over at Jordan Poole's locker, right? Because if Poole fills in some of these gaps, I think they're still pretty good.
They could be in the conference finals today.
Literally right now, right? If in game 1, game 1 Poole was very good, right? That's probably the best Poole game we got all playoffs. If Jordan Poole is even a fraction of that in game 4, are we having a different conversation? I don't know. If Clay has any sort of game in game 4, are we having a different conversation? It's possible, right? Because that was a 3-point game.
You know what, B, before I go to Denny, I think going 7 games to Sacramento played a role in that too.
Awful. And that Kings game, that game 6 against the Kings during this whole dynastic run was, and this is just me, just kind of watching from afar, that was the worst game I've seen them play collectively as a unit. No sense of urgency. It looked like they didn't want to run any of their stuff. And they could have, any other iteration of this team would have closed the Kings out. They would have smelled blood.
Listen,
and just taken them out and said, we got to get our rest.
50 from Steph in a game 7 to beat the Sacramento Kings. That's like, where's everybody else at? Denny Blanco, go ahead. I know you've been waiting. I know you're just foaming at the mouth right now.
Took you long enough, you jive turkey.
I had to let the Warriors fan, a little vent a little bit,
No, I appreciate you vent and let me vent. Please go
Ben.
ahead. I need some outside counsel.
Ben, I want you to vent. It's him coming out of turn. That's my issue. You good. You good, Ben. You good. Ben, you said a lot.
What are you, Shaq and I'm Barkley? I talk too long? I talk too long?
Nah, I'm Danny, you Randy, baby. I'm Danny, you Randy, baby. Listen, you said a lot. And I think Randy kind of took my question, but I'm going to rephrase a little bit.
Oh, Sacramento?
If I may. No, not Sacramento. Not the Sacramento part, but if I may. And I'll go through this and I'll pass it off to you. The biggest, as I'm going through and you're talking, I'm trying to ask myself, what was the biggest issue for the Warriors all season? And you went through a couple, and I'm just like, okay, I'm writing them down, and I'm trying to range, what's number 1? So I'm asking myself, was it the Draymond punch? Was it the Wiseman trade? Was it Wiggins being out for an extended period of time? Huh? Obviously, you mentioned Jordan Poole being half of just Poole, not Jordan, just Poole. In the playoffs, if you will. Not the same player. Same thing with Clay. Now, I don't know if it's an injury issue. I don't know if we're not going to see the old Clay. We're going to see Clay off and on. I don't know, but you hit it on the head. So I ask you.
And they couldn't win the game on the road.
They couldn't win the game on the road. You have all that bubbling. I ask you, sir, because that's a lot. You got some teams that's got 1 issue. You got 5 right here. I ask you, good sir.
Yeah.
What do you think was the number 1 issue?
I mean, I think without a doubt for me, it's the punch, because that just set the vibes until then, right? Couldn't be touched. I think everyone was thinking, repeat. Is this team just going to get better, right? Is this 2 timeline thing really working, right? That's all Lacob kept promoting. We've got the best core in the NBA now, and then Poole, Kuminga, Moody, Wiseman in the wings, and it was just I think. After they win the title, people are starting to really buy into it, right? Where you're like, oh shit, I think they might do it. They might pull this off. They might pull off something that no one's ever done before. Like the closest maybe with the Spurs and Kawhi, right? And the Draymond Poole incident just took everything off kilter. And to all the rest of those things that you listed, Denny, I think if those things happen and that punch doesn't happen, everything is easier to recover from. The Wiseman trade, I think, just had to happen. I think that was if that happened, regardless, I think that was that needed to happen. Everything else, I think they can weather the storm on. If that punch doesn't happen, if it's just a regular season, right? I don't think they go 11-30 on the road if that doesn't happen. And we can look at all the metrics and stats that you want, right? I think they ended up 11th in offensive rating, and somewhere like 14th, 15th defensive rating. Basically, they were middle of the pack with those numbers all season. But look, I mean, 11-30 is atrocious on the road. Atrocious.
Steph,
If Draymond, and look, this is the wild thing is that there's going to be no basketball science, if you will, to back this up. If that punch doesn't happen, don't you think they win like 5 more games?
15-15 or something.
Right. Where it's like, that's not great, but okay. It's respectable. And look, that 0-5 road trip to start the season, right? Where they started off 3-2 and then at home, which already kind of okay. And then they go on this 5-game road trip, 0-5 off the jump. And if you kind of look at all these games that they tricked off on the road, look, again, the ball bounces a different way. Maybe that's the logical way to look at this, right? From a basketball standpoint.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe if they don't go 0-5 on that first road trip. But again, I just keep going back to, and I made a lot of jokes about it after the fact, but like if that punch doesn't happen, I think we're having a different conversation in terms of where they stack up too, right? They ended up as a 6th seed. You win a couple more games, are they the 4 seed and in a completely different bracket?
I think
like where they're not hitting the Lakers.
I think all season Steph was looking for, and then we can go on to the Final Four. I think Steph all season was looking for a second and third score, consistent score, and he couldn't find one.
Yeah, and that, in theory, that should have been Poole.
Well, you want it to be Clay, you want it to be Wiggy, then you want it to be Poole, and then everything comes after that. You get your Kumingas, and you get your little, DaVinci off the bench. I forget his name.
DiVincenzo or somebody.
DiVincenzo, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, you get your other bench players to get you chipping 10 and 12. But you need Clay to give you 20. You need Jordan to give you 20. You need Wiggins to give you 20. So Steph doesn't have to give you 55, 60 every game that they need to close.
And that's the thing with Jordan too, was he ended up averaging 20 during the season.
I'm sure.
Right. And he played every single game. It's the efficiency that wasn't there.
Right.
Right. Like he just looked shook. One of his elite traits, or what should have been elite, if he kind of made the jump, was his shot creation, right? And it's just with Poole, it's a lot of side to side dribbling, and a lot, he actually kind of did the same thing last year. What bailed him out was he was actually pretty decent.
His shot was falling,
right? Like last year, I think he shot something like 37% from 3, which again, not something to write home about, but when you get bailed out on some of these side-to-side drives and dribbles where you're not going to get penetration and, you heave it, it goes in. Again, that swings games. It swings your statistics. This dude shot as well from 3 as Draymond this year.
You're right.
Right. That's rough. Because, again, Draymond, he can make a 3 if you need him to, but he'll be probably the first one to tell you that's not his game. He's going to set up the offense. He's going to lock down on D. And for Poole to just kind of be floating around there from a 3-point standpoint, that's where a lot of the frustration comes from. Because even if he just hovers around 35%, league average, it's probably not as, everything shakes out probably just a little bit.
So I would say as of right now, I would assume Steve Kerr is pretty safe with his job. I don't see him getting fired or like that, unless he decides to go somewhere. We've been seeing a coaching carousel the last 2 weeks. Nick Nurse is available. Mike Budenholzer is available. Monty Williams is available. So that means the Suns, the Bucks, and Toronto jobs are available. We don't know what's going to happen with Doc and Philly. That's 50-50. That could that could happen right now. I don't
Mhm.
know. Um, a little rumor. Who said it? I think Jalen Rose probably said it. Something like, "What if Steve Kerr, if he was to leave Phoenix, go Warriors, he might go to Phoenix because he used to be the GM of Phoenix, and they got Durant there, they got Devin Booker there. Like, I'm not saying Kerr's gonna leave. And Stephen A. did say like unless Curry retires today, then Kerr's not going nowhere. What do you make of
Yeah.
these coaching carousel moves, and where do you think these unemployed coaches at the moment are going to end up?
I mean, first off, I don't think Kerr
Right.
goes anywhere. I think he has carte blanche
That's
over at
right.
the Warriors. You know, he's one of the most important decision makers over there. And again, to your point, he's going to go. He's tied to Steph. Like he's going to take that.
Right.
He's going to ride with Steph until Steph
Phil
decides,
Jackson, Michael Jordan,
I'm good.
same concept.
Right. Leaving Steph to go rock with Kevin Durant when KD kind of didn't really rock with him during his time here. I don't.
So even
that
if
doesn't make
even
a
if
whole lot
Bob
of
Myers
sense.
decides to go, you still feel like Kerr's like, okay, if he goes, okay, fine. I'm still
Well, I think so it seems like Mike Dunleavy is the kind of heir apparent there if Bob decides to leave, right? And he's got a lot of sway within that organization, and he's a pretty big decision maker himself. I also think, kind of going into the Phoenix situation, if it what's the new owner's name, Matt Ishbia, if he
the guy that flopped with
yeah, the guy that almost got into a fight with Jokic and flopped.
He's like a little matrix.
I just don't see him given the same amount of leeway to Kerr.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he's already in these streets talking about he's basically running the organization, right? He's just telling James Johnson to deliver these news. Like he decided right after the game that he wanted to fire Monty, and then told James Jones to go do it. That's that. Could this be? Is it going to be like a cute Mark Cuban thing where the GM is just kind of an executioner of sorts of your vision, and where he kind of runs the day to day? I don't know, man. That doesn't seem like a good situation. Where Lacob has those traits, right? Where he talks about light years and the 2 timeline thing, and he's out in front of the media pretty often. I do think he gives Kerr a much longer leash than most owners do with any coach, and trust. When you're working any job, why would you kind of leave that comfortability?
Right. So Denny Blanco, betting man, who's the coach of the Milwaukee Bucks next year? And I heard they interviewed Mark Jackson as well, so his name is in the running. So we'll see.
Williams.
So you got Monty Milwaukee. Who's coaching Phoenix next year?
Bud.
And okay, where's Nick Nurse going?
Nick Nurse?
I don't know if KD. I think KD and Book would eat Mike.
You think so?
Oh, I'm sure, and they do the same thing to Nick. So I don't know where these guys are.
I think. I mean, that's a good point. I mean, they've both won titles within the last couple of years. I think Nick.
No. Yeah, Budenholzer has a
Nurse
has a ring,
and Nick Nurse.
So does Nick Nurse.
So why do you not give either of those the respect that they deserve? Good question.
I mean, but Bud is he's an interesting. I can't really, aside from being a part of Popovich's coaching tree, like what is his philosophy coaching wise? Right? Did he fall into this Giannis thing? And I hate to be that guy who's like, how good of a coach is he? I'm genuinely wondering, right? Because did Giannis pull a championship out of his ass despite Mike Budenholzer? And it's obviously easier now to say that now that we're kind of 2 years removed from it. But how do you lose to an 8 seed with Giannis?
Well, the same. You talk about coaching. The same thing I asked my Philly fans about Doc Rivers. I'm in an argument on Twitter Spaces early today talking about
why are you arguing, man? Why are you arguing? Why you welcome?
Because these fans folks like to disagree with me. I don't know why. Why would you want to do that?
Facts.
And I sat there and I told this guy, I said, look, two things can be true. Bud could be a great coach overall for his career, and he could have lost some series because of bad coaching. Two things can be true.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, maybe Giannis pulls a ring, because he's Giannis and he was Superman that year and people were hurt and it was the right road. But then now you see an 8 seed in Miami, and this is the part, amongst other things about this playoffs, this pisses me off. I apologize if I rant. Giannis said, yeah, I didn't defend Jimmy because the coach didn't suggest so. Giannis, you're a former defensive player of the year. You're probably the only guy on your team that could defend Jimmy. Why wouldn't you defend him every possession to give your team a better chance to win?
Mm-hmm.
You walk up to the coach just like Jimmy. You see, and that's another thing too. You see a lot of these players when they're the man.
Yeah. They're the alpha.
When you're the man on your team, you're allowed to pull rank. LeBron James looking over at Coach Black. You want me to run what? Shut up.
Oh, when Darvin Ham took him out, and LeBron was like, "What? I'm going right back in."
You have a player's killing you, and you're the most athletic, longest human on your team that can move like a deer. Yet you leave it up to Lopez on an island. Then you got Holiday, Middleton on a bad knee.
Mm-hmm.
Huh? Dealing with Jimmy, playoff Jimmy, not regular Jimmy, playoff Jimmy.
Playoff Jimmy might be the best player in the history of the NBA. Apparently.
And I have a theory on that too. Shout out to the MVP, Mr. Joel Embiid, sir. Yeah, maybe Philly ran you down. Maybe Philly ran you into the mud for your MVP trophy, and that's why you couldn't. That's why you was on your last legs when it comes to these past couple of games. Maybe, but playoff Jimmy, what's the average? 18 points a game, and the whole season. I'm talking to Randy. I'm like, yo, Randy, what's going on with Jimmy, bro? Some days he give you 14 points. Some days he give you like 15, 19. Like he's not checked in. Oh, he's waiting for the playoffs. Bravo.
You're waiting for the offs.
If I had it my way, I'd want my players to take the season off, if they possibly could, to ramp up for the playoffs and dominate. I'd much rather that way.
What's wild too, though, and this is why the Bucks Bud thing, I just have this weird disdain for Bud because the Heat lost the first play-in game.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? The Hawks beat them. The Atlanta Hawks, who had a mid-season coaching change with a guy with Quinn Snyder, who might tear that whole thing down. Right? He doesn't even like his own team, and they beat the Heat. And then the Heat were on the precipice of not making the playoffs at all. Beat the Bulls. So there's a lot of film there, a lot of game tape, twice times. And you still you lost them in five games.
And to the point where
Robin Lopez. We talk about strategy, Randy. I'm sorry. You talk about strategy. Robin Lopez, a 7-footer, shooting three still. Just continue. Don't get me wrong. He had a good game, a good series in general. But boys and girls, it's not only the fact that you're a 7-footer, you get down low. You draw fouls.
Yeah.
On their big men to get them in foul trouble, so they can be pulled off the bench or put on the bench, so the things can change and rotate.
And to the point, the fact that they lost that series when Miami's best shooter goes out with an injury for the season, Tyler Hero, and
one of their best creators too.
And you think, Tyler Hero was out, Miami ain't got no shot. But you know what? Me and Dennis have said this a long time ago. When you got Coach Spoelstra on your sideline, like, anything can happen. Because now you're seeing Duncan Robinson rises from his back. Duncan Robinson,
the Undertaker out here, just
cobwebs off, and I'm good. Max Strus makes every shot. Kyle Lowry looking like Toronto Kyle Lowry. Duncan Robinson making shots. Caleb Martin is making every shot. Bam can't be stopped. Kevin Love
Bam's looking nice.
is like, yo, what's up with this, yo? I thought Atlanta had him. I thought Chicago had him. I thought Milwaukee had him. I thought New York had him. And it's like now you see him in the conference finals in a rematch from last year against Boston. I'm like, how?
They go home. They go home, Daddy. I got Boston in 6.
Got Boston in 6.
Light work. That boy Jason Tatum is a problem, boy. That boy Jason. Listen. 0 for 10 at the half. I'm looking at the scoreboard. 4th quarter. Philly's up. I'm looking, and I'm like, yo, Jason off. He hit one. He hit another. And another. And another. And then I'm like, double him. They're like, no.
So
that's what makes
Denny,
a great player.
If you're Missoula, you put in Brown, you put in Tatum, you put Marcus Smart on Jimmy. Are you doubling?
Oh no. Oh, thank you. You're good. I'm Missoula. No, you're gonna get a good work. You're gonna get some good work. Jimmy, playoff Jimmy.
Yeah.
He's gonna get some good work of some Marcus. He's gonna see some Marcus. He's gonna see some early Marcus.
Mm-hmm.
Preferably, we want him to be on him all game. But chances are he's gonna get into foul trouble. We may have to switch him off. So once we switch him off, we're gonna give him a little bit of taste of Jason. We're gonna give him taste. A little taste of Jason, right? It's gonna taste a little delicious. You know what I mean? He's gonna think he's gonna feast. And if that doesn't work, check it out. We got Jalen. Put Jalen on him. You know what I mean? Because let's be clear. I do not believe Missoula, the coaching mind that he is going to allow Jimmy
to beat them
to score 50. No, he is not. No, sirree, Bob. Jimmy will be doubled a bunch of times, and he's going to have to kick out. And your boys, Vincent, your boy Strus.
I forgot about Gabe Vincent.
Your boy Strauss, and everybody else on the Miami team will have to hit shots because Jimmy's not going to do it for y'all. Boston in 6.
Benjamin, who you got? Boston, Miami.
I do have the Celtics too. I think
in 6.
The Heat have been a. I'm gonna have
5.
Wow. Well, the Heat are an 8 seed. I know they've played really well, and they've kind of had this string of. Obviously, they took down the Bucks and the Knicks, but it was of that path.
They ain't never seen nothing like this before.
The Celtics are a real team. I mean, the Bucks obviously, Giannis gets hurt in that first game. Different. If you want, as a Bucks, if you want to do the Bucks apologist thing, Giannis gets hurt in that first game, right? And was he ever the same? You had that cloud hovering over it, right? Whether you want to buy into that or not, the Heat still beat him, right? And you got to play who's in front of you. Like I hate that injury thing. The Knicks. Look, Randy, I don't want to hurt your feelings.
Then don't.
No, hurt his feelings. Ben,
if you have nothing nice to say,
no, hurt his feelings.
Don't say it.
Hurt his feelings. No. We just got off of the Warriors. We got to hurt your feelings now. Come on now, Ben.
It was a nice idea, right? It was like, the '90s throwback. We're just, Knicks Heat rivalry, or sorry, the Knicks Heat rivalry. It's nice, this and that. The Knicks just did. Tibbs ran your boys Jalen Brunson and Cameron Grimes into the ground during Game 5. I can't remember the last time I've seen that where I wasn't playing a video game, where I turned injuries and fatigue off. This man ran them into the ground, and I was like, this is not.
Even if you said D Rose, you're too old. You still have McBride sitting right there.
Go get D Rose and then run some cardio just for 5 minutes. Let's give Jalen Brunson a little bit
42
of a break.
minutes.
He's been running a marathon.
48 minutes a game.
In a must-win situation, you got to go with what's working. No, they couldn't stop Jalen Brunson.
48 minutes in the year of our Lord 2023 is insane.
Yeah, you saw what happened to D Rose, right? Early on.
Cameron Grimes almost lost his leg. And Tibbs was like, all right, you good?
Yeah, stay out there.
Grimes said, I'm good.
I didn't see.
Grimes said,
I didn't see one
And,
ice
and
pack.
playoff
And I know
Jimmy
it's got
said,
this New York
and
toughness
playoff Jimmy
thing,
said, if
but
Coach
come
Spo wants me
on.
to do 48 in Game 6, I'm doing 48 in Game 6.
I think Tibbs heard Josh Hart joke about it like once during the playoffs, and he put it in the back of his mind and said, "I'm going to use that card later." It ended up
I would
not
say
being
before
Josh
we
Hart.
wrap up, I want to say it was a really great season for the Knicks. I think most people did not have them in the playoffs. 2 conference semis, 2 games from the conference finals. Jalen Brunson proved a lot of people wrong. He's worth that money and more.
That's the biggest.
He's worth
story,
that
I
money
think,
and more.
Underpaid.
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 Just
yeah.
a fucking dog. That's what you need in New York. A guy that
Woof,
the
woof.
Knicks point guard situation has been dormant for so long that in this day and age, I need a point guard that can obviously pass the ball but can score for himself. Like in the world of Curry's and Dame Lillard's and the Aaron Foxes now, and Trey Young's, we needed that kind of point guard. And Jalen Brunson proved every single reason why he's worth that bread. And in the regular season and the playoffs, you trying to tell me that guy did not make the All-Star team? Did not make an All-NBA team? Are you fucking kidding me?
So let's talk about this now. So Randall made both of those things.
Yeah, I need to.
I think
And
that's
I
the
thought
big
Randall
issue,
had a
right? Is
good
that Randall
regular season.
keeps getting this shine.
Fans need to leave Randall.
And it was
fans
fine.
Need to leave Randall alone. Okay, you guys,
Yeah.
a little hard on Randall
Yeah,
for
that
a
was
guy
too much.
who's
That was too
all
much.
NBA. You guys, don't get me wrong,
But
James. I know what you look. I know what you're gonna say, guys. I know what you're gonna say. Same thing with James Harden. Come playoff time, it doesn't matter what you do during the season. It matters what you do in the playoffs.
Right.
So I understand why some people are looking at Randall like, yeah, that's cute in the regular season. 26 and 10. Oh, that's cute. All-Star game. Playoff time. Go from 26 to 15.
I'm not defending him like that, but well, you know what? I will defend him to a degree where I think if he doesn't get hurt at the end of the regular season,
The ankle injury.
we're having a different Brunson too. Brunson, mad people got hurt.
Brunson, yeah,
And
sure.
quickly was out too.
Quickly was out too.
Brunson also balled out though, despite being
Brunson was
hurt. And it was mental
toughness.
Like,
Brunson needs to wear
the
Kobe Grinches every fucking game next year. You don't want to know why? Because my man destroys in them kicks. I don't know what it is.
I thought that's the only thing he wears though,
bro.
The Kobe Grinches. I thought
the
those
Kobe
were the only
Grinches
thing he
is
wears.
like
he loves those shit.
everything.
Yeah. He goes off
25 plus.
Easy, light.
So I would say great year for the Knicks. I know we'll be back. Don't know what kind of changes they're gonna make. That's not my job. As a fan, I think it was a great vibe in the Garden, seeing those games and seeing the team overachieve and really get to a place where now we are relevant. We're not a laughing stock no more. I think players might want to come to New York now. Not just
We'll see.
Make it more known. Like you never know who that disgruntled star might be. Free agents, we'll see. But first of all, you were a Brooklyn Net fan until like November, and once Kyrie and KD left, I haven't heard no Brooklyn. I didn't see no Brooklyn hats. I didn't see nothing. So right now you are a free agent as far as being a fan of somebody. So you got to figure it out.
You're not in on Utah Watanabe?
No, I'm not. I immediately jumped ship after
ship Titanic.
No, I jumped.
Oh, you're playing the violins too? I was doing that during
my man was on a DiCaprio raft.
by himself.
You froze too? You froze and died?
Absolutely. Randy, listen. You before we go over to the Lakers Denver, RJ Barrett.
Yeah.
Your boy's gonna have a tough summer. Because that cut up of that last game, if you just put every shot he took.
Oh, he's the Knicks punching bag, isn't he? Like every team has one.
It's Randall.
I had Randall. RJ, I feel like is above Randall. And correct me if I'm wrong.
It's Randall. People despise Randall. They despise his attitude. They despise his. They despise. This is what I'm reading online. I love just reading the comment section because it's literally sometimes where the zeitgeist is going. And they're like, I'm trying to be in there. I'm like, nah. Randall Randall. If it wasn't for Randall, y'all guys wouldn't have gotten, you know what I mean, as far as you think you would have gotten. Y'all need to sit back and give that guy some props.
The wildest part about Randall for me all season was that he made the 3-point contest. We're gonna look back on this years from now on the list of 3-point contest competitors, and we're just gonna wonder what the hell Julius Randle was doing. Obviously, there was an injury replacement. Dear God, they couldn't fly somebody else out there. Duncan Robinson, dust him off real quick.
So before I wrap it up, I got like 4 minutes to go. Lakers and the Nuggets. Benjamin, who you got? Are you going with the Lakers even though they beat your Warriors, or you feel like this is the year Denver gets over that hump and gets to the finals?
I do have the Nuggets. I think Nuggets in 6. Yeah, I mean the Lakers exposed a lot of the Warriors' weaknesses, and they took advantage of it and they capitalized on it. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that against the Nuggets. I don't know if AD is going to be able to eat the way that he did and basically play free safety, right? And if he does find a way to, body up Jokic, which is going to be exhausting for him on the defensive end, how does that affect him offensively, right? And then, if there is, I think, Jamal Murray can just, I think the Warriors showed that if you bring AD up and just run him in pick and rolls, that's a way to kind of stretch that defense more than they would like to be. And Denver's got the shooters to actually make some shots. The Warriors just, they lacked shot making, right? At a very simplistic level. The Nuggets have it in spades. It's nuts, right? Like Michael Porter Jr. might not give it to you every single game, but he's also a threat for 25, 30 on any given night. Jamal could light them up nicely, right? Jokic will do his thing. KCP will do his thing. Bruce, like they're deep, man. So I think the Lakers, they almost had a favorable matchup against the Warriors where they could expose and a lot of their role players could do more damage than they probably should be capable.
So what both you telling me now, you both got the Denver Nuggets and the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals.
Yes, I have.
That's what I got.
I have Denver in 6. Lakers fans, I apologize. I didn't have you going as far as you thought you were going, even though I know some of you jumped ship early. Some of you guys really thought I wasn't going, but that trade mid-season saved this season for you guys. So applaud Rob Pelinka.
Multiple trades.
Applaud Rob Pelinka and the great moves that he has brought upon the Lakers team. But this ride is over. That man on the other side, that man Nikola
Jokic.
That man on the other side is going to give fits to AD. Fits to AD. Well,
right.
You have the ability to have Jamal Murray just do this all day. Come, Joker. Take a side. Get a high screen. Come off that screen and then see AD anywhere at the free throw line. It's going up. Now, if AD, you want to come up, Daddy, you want to come up and defend me, Jamal? Yeah. I'll just go around you. And once I lean around you, wait, who's on the wing? Is that MGP? MGP. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Who else? What's on the other side? Oh, that's KCP. Wasn't KCP in LA? Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, for a guy who can't play.
LA, Washington. Yeah.
Last team. You want to ring with that? Didn't he really ring the bubble, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah.
In 20, yeah.
Guys, Lakers, D'Angelo, Russell, you guys are going to have a problem, man. All right? No matter who you want to put on the big man on Murray, you want to put what's that the guard they put on Curry. What was the
Schroeder?
No, not Schroeder. They'll put the big forward on him.
Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt?
They'll put Vanderbilt on Murray.
Yeah.
Try and do that.
But the Warriors showed that they could play. You could play him off the floor because he can't shoot.
Right.
There you go. So Darvin, great season, Darvin.
Exactly.
Great season. Denver
we'll see what happens. Right now, Denny and Benjamin both have Denver and Boston in the NBA Finals. I think I'm probably going to go Boston and LA. Traditional throwback rivalry.
Boo.
And LeBron.
Boo.
You're living in it. You're living in it.
Am I opposed? Listen.
Boo.
I would just say this. if you ask me what could happen, I think LA and Miami is not that far fetched either. I'm telling you right now. Not,
Now, let me tell you something.
I'm just
Oh boy.
No. Let me look you in the eye when I say this. Hold on. Let me take my shit off. If Miami beats Boston, I don't even care if it's 7. To me, the NBA whisperer, it's rigged. It's rigged. It's rigged. No way.
it's rigged.
It's rigged.
Ooh,
Oh